All right. Good morning. Good morning. Salutations. Have blessed Sunday to everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine out there. Well, due to the inclement weather, I just got a text from my pastor saying that we're gonna have service virtually, which is done every Sunday. But I just got the text today that we're going to that the service is going to be virtual due to the weather. So we're still going to have the Word of God. Upon us, nonetheless. So, but I just wanted to kind of come up and kind of discuss something that I know this is like a topic that's been debatable for some time. I mean, it's a common debate among us in regards to the concept of forgiveness. Forgiving and forgetting, when someone does you wrong in the past and you reach a level of wealth or success, or you're in a position where you're able to assist someone in a particular matter. Do um, you help that person? Do you allow yourself um, to help that person despite of what they've done in the past, or hold them accountable? So, the reason why I posed that question is because there's this clip that's going around of Tracy Morgan encountering someone from his past that just so happened to be at the at a particular event at the same place at the same time, and this person is asking him, Tracy Morgan, for help, and you hear him in the clip saying that he did not forget. Don't act like I forgot. I don't owe you anything. And so the person that's asking for help is saying, well, I'm homeless, boy. I'm homeless. And he's like, well, basically, Tracy is basically saying that's a you problem at this point. So there's a lot of discussion, and I know it's going to be a lot of debate going on because it's already going, it's always making its rounds of social media, and I know it's going to make its rounds on YouTube and other spaces. So I kind of want to get my take on it, but let me just, go ahead and share this so you kind of know what I'm referring to here.
Listen, I remember. Don't talk to me like I owe you something.
I didn't say that. Like, boy, can I get something, please?
No. I got a picture. When we was younger.
Yeah,
I
but
think I forgot.
I'm homeless, boy.
So what that got to do with me? I ain't do that.
Oh,
Take care of my
shit.
kids.
Can I get a picture of my
You the
sister?
ones that ain't here.
Okay, so you saw that clip, and yeah, so it was intense, and it was pretty some people might say it was cold of Tracy Morgan to handle it that way. I mean, I know some people, like, based on the comments that I've seen so far, calling him boy, and I don't think that he meant that in a derogatory way. I just feel like boy, like saying I'm homeless, boy, like I think it was more like a, kind of a figure of speech type of thing. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I know this resonated with so many people because it also personifies the concept of doing unto others as you will have them do unto you. And so you think that you could um, act a certain kind of way towards people and treat people a certain kind of way, and you feel like there's enough time that's passed that that person would be able to forgive and forget. And so if I come to you for help, or if I need a kidney, or if I'm in my deathbed, then all is all is forgiven, all is so I can turn around and ask for a favor and not receive whatever consequence that's given, or not, or that person may expect for that other person to just forget about the past, forget about what's done, because I'm in the dire straits right now. It's about the here and now. It's about what I'm going through right now. So just kind of piggybacking off that clip, I mean, as soon as Tracy Morgan saw this person, I think that it really, you could tell it triggered him in a major way, to the point where he's like, don't think I owe you anything. And so I want to pause it right there, because we have a people around us that have this sense of entitlement. And I know we use that word a lot, entitlement. because it seems to be a fixture in our community where people feel like they're entitled based on whether or not your family or you grew up with that person, or um, there's certain things that's happened that they feel like they could just, sponge off you because of the level of wealth that you attain. And because you attain a level of wealth, they feel like you're in a position to save the world and to, be there for every and everybody. And that's not a healthy way of thinking. But you could tell that whatever this person has done to Tracy Morgan is stuck. And so I want to really kind of dive into that because um, we don't know the full scope of what happened. And I'm sure that once, now that this is circulating, I'm sure that Tracy Morgan may decide to add some context to that because we only saw that one few second clip. So we don't know the full scope of what happened between them. So we don't want to jump to the conclusion of you need to forgive and forget. This is a test to see if you're able to share your blessings, and it's a test to see if you're able to at least give them like a few dollars and just go about your business. But I think that Tracy felt like he was operating more on principle, um, because he said that you said a lot of things to me when I was younger. Don't think I forgot. So it sounds to me that that man that said he was homeless was, it seems to me that he just demonstrated bullying behavior. Like he was apparently like was probably bullying Tracy Morgan, or said and does some things that impacted his life in a certain capacity. And again, we don't know for sure. So I think that before we jump to judgment on towards Tracy Morgan, sometimes you look at a person and you look at this person saying that they're homeless and they're not in the they're kind of like rock bottom in a sense, and you look at that situation from the outside looking in and you're automatically sympathetic, and that's fine because I mean, I'm just as compassionate as the next person, and I do understand why people would empathize automatically. But you have to understand, sometimes when you look at a person's situation, you have to look at it as, even though we all experience circumstances that are um, not very comfortable for us, or we tend to reach a certain level of destitution, so to speak. And sometimes we have to understand that that is God allowing that person to suffer some consequences for certain things that they've done, or because they just exhibited a pattern of behavior that affected a lot of people around them. And so sometimes, there are certain things that people do in the past that catches up to them in the present. And unfortunately, sometimes it affects the generations after, because, they say that karma also comes towards your children or people that are descendants after you as well. So you have to be mindful of how you treat other people, because you never know when you might need them. And so I think that this is a prime example of that situation, because the person said, but like when Tracy Morgan had mentioned that you said, you said some things to me when I was younger, you did some things to me when I was younger. And he was like, yeah, but I'm homeless now. Like, he still had that sense of entitlement, even though may not have, he might have done it subconsciously in a sense. But the fact that he approached Tracy Morgan in that way and was like, oh yeah, but I'm homeless now, like, it was a certain level of arrogance there that he kind of imposed on Tracy Morgan, as if he expected him to be in a position to give him something. And Tracy was like, well, that sounds like a you problem. Like, I didn't do that to you. And he was like, oh wow, like, I don't think he expected Tracy Morgan, to be so cold. And sometimes when you in a situation where you deal with someone's abuse or mistreatment, and they get into a space where they may have forgiven you, but they not going to forget. So meaning they not for going to forget in the sense that they'll be just as cold as Tracy Morgan was, because a lot of people might look at that clip and say that Tracy Morgan was very cold towards that person. And sometimes you develop that cold hearted spirit sometimes when you have encountered someone in a negative way and that person impacted you in a certain way. So like I said, we none of us know what's happening. I do understand because as a person who, you know, who views God as a head of their life. I'm a firm believer in God, and I take my relationship with God very seriously. And so I do understand why people feel like part of forgiveness is to even if Tracy Morgan was able to give him or something and just make it a one and done thing, or not hold any grudges. And I'm sure that you know it may seem like Tracy Morgan is holding a grudge against him, but even if he wasn't holding a grudge against him, that still doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to respond the way he did to him, because again, none of us know what happened. So the question still remains: was Tracy Morgan right or wrong in this situation? Because for me, I need more context. Because I know that I have shared, or I've been transparent, somewhat transparent about you know people who have I've encountered in a negative way, and I've forgiven them, and and I still end up being there for them, just like they were there for some people were there for me. And I've done some things or said some things that because like I said, I wasn't always the nicest person in the world, but I was still mindful of certain things. I still was mindful of how I address certain people, or some people, even those I ruffle feathers with, or those feel like my tone is harsh, but was still mindful of how to behave towards others, to the degree where, you know, to the degree where I understood that if I was to come into a situation where I needed, someone, or I asked for help, that person wouldn't turn their back on me. But but on the other hand, I'm just an independent type of person to where I don't want to impose on anyone. So a lot of times I may be going through certain things that some people may not know about, because um, I don't want to say suffer in silence, but I just don't like to impose on certain people. But when you have certain people who are bold enough to circle back to the same person that they mistreated and ask them for assistance, yeah, that you know, you kind of have to kind of think about that, kind of analyze that a little bit more, and just kind of look deeper into that situation, because we all grew up being bullied. Some people grew up, being abused and mistreated by parents or loved ones, and they feel like, and especially like, if you go through a situation with someone and they mistreated you in the past, and you get older and years go by, and you haven't seen that person in such a long time, because we don't know how long it was since Tracy Morgan has seen this particular person that he encountered. And so all those years has went by, and you didn't have the opportunity to hash things out, and the conversation wasn't had. So you can't expect to pop up years later, after he acquired a certain level of wealth and success, and you just feel like, oh, that's in the past, we can't dwell on that, but help, but I need your help now. So you just can't approach it that way. You can't approach certain things that way. um I think that if there was a conversation that was had, and the man that's in need of Tracy Morgan's help would have apologized sincerely and asked for his forgiveness, and they had a deep conversation before that encounter, then I think that I would have made a difference. I think that Tracy Morgan may have responded differently to him. But when you have certain things happen to you and years go by and you encounter that same person years later, I mean, yes, that those things are going to still resonate with you, because the conversation wasn't had, or there was no apologies given, no there was no resolve there, you know but you pop up when you need something from me. In a destitute situation, or you hit a level of rock bottom, and now you want something from me. But not, so now you did not encounter me to ask for my forgiveness, but you need something from me. So you just have to really kind of dive into that. But I do understand why people feel like this is a test of um because a lot of people understand, or is aware of Tracy Morgan's history of, you know, um, being a celebrity and having that bad accident that left him, with serious injuries, and him to, and a couple of people had lost their lives to that accident, and he was able to recover so well from that, and he was able to win big in a lawsuit against Walmart because of that. Um, but does that mean that? I mean, of course, I'm sure that Tracy Morgan has paid it forward in so many ways that we're not aware of, and we don't have to be. You know, who's to say that he didn't atone? Who's to say that he didn't pay it forward? It's just that it depends on who he pays it forward with. Because a lot of times when, from the outside looking in, when you see people who are rich or famous or just have some type of financial security, we always expect for them to save the world. You expect for them to automatically give handouts to those who are in need, or everyone that's in need. Because I mean, that's the thing. You're gonna encounter a lot of people in need. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that are, in challenging situations, but that doesn't mean that you should automatically expect people with a certain level of wealth to just automatically just hand out, contributions or willy-nilly. I think you still have to kind of use a level of discernment. I think that, people are allowed to use their finances the way they see fit, not the way you see fit. Because if you encounter someone that's in need, and, instead of challenging that other person to do whatever it is that you think that you need for them to do, maybe you need to do it yourself. Why don't you offer them the assistance that you are expecting someone else to give? But in this case, I mean, I think I need to have more context to this clip to find out why Tracy Morgan was so cold towards him. Because even though I do understand that, sometimes when you in need, and I guess that person felt desperate enough to, because I'm just trying to figure out the fact that he was able to find out where he was. I'm just kind of trying to figure out, like, I'm just questioning the timing of it all. Like, he just happened to just show up to where Tracy Morgan was located, at the right place at the right time. And, I kind of question that, the timing of it, and how he was able to approach him, you know, in that particular area. So that's kind of strange to me. But either way, just if you feel froggy enough to go into the comments, to um, kind of give your opinion about it, because like I said, I know it's going to be a lot of content about this. And I know that when you receive blessings, I do believe in sharing your blessings, because you're going to be blessed in return even more abundantly. But I think that at the same time, you have to understand that when you're treated a certain way, when you encounter certain people in your life that haven't been there for you in that before you became financially secured. A period of time where people around you, you know, um, did not wish you well. There were people around you that were bullying you, or abused you, or just mistreated you, whether it's friends, family, loved ones. You got to be mindful of, you know, how they treated you before you acquired a certain level of wealth, or, a certain level of success. And now they want to circle back to you once you've so-called made it. So you got to be mindful of who you encounter in your life, and how you feel, you would approach it. Would you have done what Tracy Morgan has done? So just, comment if you will. on this, because I know, like I said, it's going to be a lot of debate, going to be a lot of commentary on this, on whether or not Tracy Morgan was wrong and what would you have done in this situation. So like, comment, share, subscribe. And please make sure that you look out for more content that I'm going to try to do in between time. And in the meantime, I'm actually going to have an interview this coming Wednesday with Just Rico. He is the host of the podcast called oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, Just Rico. I just want to make sure that I get the podcast name correct. Let me just make sure, because I do not want to mess this up. Yeah, so please pardon me. So let's see. In case you didn't know, okay, that's what it's called. In case you didn't know, podcast. I want to make sure that like I said, I want to make sure that I had that correct. So I'm going to be interviewing with him. So please make sure you look out for the flyer that's going to be put out there. And I hope that you come through and join me live while I interview with him. And I hope that you check out my other interviews that I've done and my responses to those to certain interviews. Just make sure that you continue to support and view my content. And in the meantime, have a good one.